Y'all tuning to Boss Talk Radio.
You're tuning in to your host, Seven, and his co-host, Ash. So nice to see you back.
I want to make Baton Rouge one of them spots like, yo, this
Agency.
Black House Agency, yeah.
Yes.
She done elevated.
In this generation, like, you can be any kind of entrepreneur you want, right?
We done with you. We gonna talk more about you and how you...
Y'all tuning to Boss Talk Radio. I'm with my co-host, Ash. Mm-hmm. We have another Ash.
Hey.
And we got Anthony Kimble.
Anthony Kimble. What's up, everyone?
He could be a famous jazz musician if he wanted to, but instead he chose to save the black community.
To be completely honest, I heard he just came off the block in NOLA. He was playing, had his saxophone out on the block one night.
All kinds of tips.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Got to the bag.
Whatever it takes to get to the bag. But nah, these my dogs. Ash, we've been knowing each other for a while.
Mm-hmm. We met
The Bar Louie days.
through Chad and JT.
And that's around the time you got Mariah in.
And Carrie. Yeah.
I thought we was taking a shot to start this.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
right. Where are the drinks?
Ooh, he ready.
I thought the shot was part of this. I signed up for the shot.
Yeah. You right. Y'all check the mug out.
She belongs to the street.
She belongs to the streets.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy Thursday. Cheers.
Headphones fail.
Refreshing.
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
Oh,
What'd you
girl,
drink
I
of
have
choice?
some blueberry lemonade.
Okay. Oh.
Wow.
She's cheating.
It's okay. We're already here.
It's offensive.
Podcast already started.
So we the only
Can't
ones
turn back.
drinking.
Wow.
I didn't get the memo.
That tequila was strong.
The camera probably got your face. But everybody got that face that you make after you take a
Bro,
shot.
did we get that on his close-up cam? We need that. We need that extra close. We need that. We need that crop shot just to that.
Thought that water was gonna do it as a chaser, man. That water.
Oh,
Yeah. Now I gotta
this
drink
dude
that
chasing
Coke, man.
water?
water is the worst chaser
Bro.
ever.
Gave me a Coke, man.
But you decided to sip the water. Why?
Wow.
And that's that Coca-Cola
Wow.
from like 1990, like the old.
Oh, that's the one that burned it. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
the sugar.
Have you with the pop
Yeah,
rocks
I
in
mean,
your
the
mouth?
red cup looked a little bit cooler, so I was like, man, I was gonna, water didn't do it for me. I was hurting.
Yeah, that's
When trying to be cool goes wrong.
Bruh.
Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, Seven knows you guys very well. I don't. I'm interested though. So Ash,
Hey.
can you give me some insight?
Well, I'm Ashley. Some people call me Ash Cray, and it's not because I'm crazy.
Using IG names.
Right, my IG name. People do call me that, thanks. But my name is actually Ashley Crayton. That's where the name comes from, not because I'm crazy. I would like to clear that up for the record. So I am from Houston, Texas. I went to LSU from 2003 to 2008.
Okay.
I moved around. I worked in property management for 15 years. So I lived everywhere from Virginia, Florida, California, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, everywhere. And I decided I no longer wanted to work for the man anymore, and decided to start my own property management consulting firm.
Okay.
And through that, I was going to live in Houston, but my best friend over here has a real estate development company and said, hey, how about you come down and work with me here in Baton Rouge? And so here I am, back in Baton Rouge again. Happy.
Perfect. And this is the perfect segue, Mr. Anthony. Besides your jazz business,
I play the sax on the weekend.
yes, what else do you have going on?
So, Anthony Kimble, real estate developer, entrepreneur. I'm originally from a small town called Marganza, but mostly grew up in Baton Rouge. Went to school, went to California for school, went to Stanford, graduated, played football there, graduated there, moved around doing some things in consulting world, sports world. But one of the things I started doing about a decade ago was buying property.
Okay.
So it started off as something like just to invest on the side for me. My parents were in the real estate, so they pushed me, at a very young age. I think bought my first property at 24 to buy property, rental properties, understanding the value of ownership. And so went from kind of a thing investing on the side to now real estate development is what I do full time. So scaled up from doing single family houses and duplexes to now we're doing our kind of niche is small multifamily, and we do some commercial also. So
Great.
have some properties in New Orleans and the Bywater, but right now our focus is really the South Baton Rouge area. So in Baton Rouge, so that's really where we raised money last year to invest in different properties, both residential and commercial, in that South Baton Rouge area.
And that's where I'm from. That's why I grew up and been raised from elementary school, high school, to Expressway Gym. Like we just grew up all around so that's what we friends, but it's different. Like
It's deeper than that.
you helping the community. And when I go back, and it's just knowing that in the future it's gonna look like a whole another place, and on top of doing events there, that's gonna be crazy for me.
Yeah.
Like as a promoter, being able to do events in your neighborhood.
Somewhere, did
Full
you say you used to,
circle.
there was a community after school program there when you were younger or
Yeah,
something?
it was on the Boys and Girls Club. And even in Expressway Gym, they had like the Big Buddy program and stuff like that. And so being able to just help y'all give back to my neighborhood is gonna be lit,
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, Legacy on 14th is a really, really dope space. It is, for a lot of different reasons.
And I mean, that was the big reason. We're looking at the South Baton Rouge community, and talking to our elders. They speak of that community as a once thriving community that had businesses, that had home ownership, that had people interacting with each other. And most importantly, the dollar was exchanging inside that community. Whether you're going to get your haircut, whether you're renting a home that was owned by a black developer, whether you're staying at Hotel Lincoln, different things, getting your haircut at Wells Barbershop, the dollar really was circulating within that community. And I think that's what's very important for us. And with looking to do development work in that community, it was important for us to place our businesses within that community. So that was that's where Legacy on 14th Street came from, which building originally started as a photography studio probably 50, 60 years ago. And we figured out a way to repurpose this old building and now make it into an office space, event space. But for us and the ecosystem I'm talking about with that dollar exchanger within the neighborhood, for me, Legacy on 14th Street was important to give like that ecosystem place where people that look like us can work there during the day, develop their business, also have events there. And also, for me, as development happens in that neighborhood, a place where people could be, people need to have things to come in that neighborhood do, feel safe, and see the potential of what can happen in that neighborhood.
Right.
And I mean, it once was a thriving neighborhood, and you hear a lot of people in our generation complain about what Baton Rouge is not. But what I tell them, talk to people like Sevens, like it's our time to make Baton Rouge what we want it to be.
To manifest that potential for it. And I think another cool thing that about all the guests that we bring on is that everybody is focused on developing Baton Rouge. I'm not hearing anybody say, and it's nothing wrong with wanting to leave your city and go do great things elsewhere, but I'm hearing a lot of, I want to pour back into my hometown. I want to build my hometown up. And I think that's so important because there's so many times I travel and people don't know the name of Baton Rouge. They don't know our city. They don't know what we represent. I think we are so culture rich. It's important for us to develop that. You look at cities and you hear people say, Baton Rouge might not ever be like a Miami. It might not be a Los Angeles. It might not be a New York. The people there are who made and turned and transformed that city into what it is. People from that city, people who moved to that place and built it up are who cultivated the culture there. Who gave New York its name, you know what I'm saying? Who built up the reputation that it has, right? The same thing can happen here. I feel it. I know it for a fact. So long as we have people who keep returning home, you know what I'm saying, doing exactly what you guys are doing, taking that community initiative to pour back into, and not just the most expensive parts of Baton Rouge, not just the parts that everybody see the potential in, but the parts that I don't even want to say are lackluster. The parts that may not be coming along as fast as other parts.
Absolutely.
It's important to see the potential where no one else sees it. As soon as you cultivate that, everybody sees the dream. Everybody sees the end goal once it's already, plastered and shining lights.
Absolutely.
But to see potential where others don't and cultivate that potential is so great to me. So I'm excited to hear about this going on, you know, for sure. I don't think we got into what got you into real estate property management. I'm sorry.
Well, I was at LSU. And I had a friend who worked in property management, actually, and she said, "Hey, Ash, you have the personality. You can literally sell ice, you know, to an igloo." And I was like, "Yeah, you know, I'm just friendly. You know, I mean, I can literally talk to a brick wall. It's really bad. Like, I literally can." And so she was like, "No, you would definitely." She's like, "I think you would be great." And I was like, "Nah, you know, we'll see." And she's like, "Hey, you get free rent." I was like, "Yo, I'll be there tomorrow.
fucking
Like,
right.
see you tomorrow."
So what time you start?
What time do you want me to start? So that's kind of how I got into property management, also into project management, which kind of formed into my business Connecting the Dots, which started off as property management, but it's kind of grown into a bit more than that. I think we have about 19 different things that we actually do. So, you know.
And then
cool.
another thing, seeing y'all like take that chance of like, all right, I'm gonna go in the hood and I'm gonna revamp the hood. And now like it took for y'all to do that. Not everybody like, hey, bro, what y'all got going? Like, but it's like y'all wasn't on that before though. It's like, but sometimes it takes somebody to do something so different. To now everybody wants to is follow the leader and so
And I mean, I don't think it's a different thing. I think it's understanding. I mean, for me is I traveled a lot in my 20s. I'm 35 now. So in my 20s I moved around a lot, whether it was Houston, Chicago, Miami, whether it was work or, you know, when I was doing the sports thing, working with athletes and stuff. But you saw in all of these cities that you know, even with New Orleans, when you talk about, you know, New Orleans is a little different because you saw people moving back into the urban core, and then Katrina sped that up. But if you really look around the country, you start seeing, you know, the suburbs were created 60s, 70s, 80s, you know, as you saw white flight to the suburbs, you know, and into the 90s. And then, you know, as the last 10, 15 years, people said, hey, I'm tired of driving an hour or two to get to work. So I'm going to move back into the urban core. So you look at cities like, you know, Houston and Third Ward, you know, East Downtown, what's happened there. You know, you look at, you know, Dallas, Bishop Arts District, you know, and what's happened there. You look at Atlanta with Midtown and what's happened there. You know what I mean? These were historically black neighborhoods that, you know, have been, you know, what people say gentrified, you know what I mean? So and typically when you look at a city like Baton Rouge and these smaller cities, Baton Rouge, Jackson, Birmingham, what I consider a small to mid-sized city, you're seeing those same trends just 10 to 15 years later. You know what I mean? Because we see what happens in the big cities, and you know, then we follow that. It's just we typically a live farther, and you know that's really what you're seeing in Baton Rouge. It was just a little, and I think you know it's important for us to understand what happened in Baton Rouge. And you saw white flight, you know, in the 60s, 70s, school desegregation when the suburbs were created. But what was just as big in Baton Rouge as it was in other cities, then you saw black flight. And black flight is what killed old South Baton Rouge, you know. 80s and 90s when blacks were able to move to Seagan Lane, Blue Bonnet. And I talk to my parents all the time because they did the same thing. My parents live we live off Blue Bonnet and Holland, where, you know, where by the time I was in high school. And like what that happens, those middle to upper class blacks moved to the suburbs and they took their businesses out, you know, these communities. And if you talk to the old heads at Wells Barbershops and stuff like that, you know, my initial thoughts about Baton Rouge, when did it deteriorate? You know, was it because of the drugs? All the old heads will tell you, no, when all the businesses left the neighborhood.
That's when the
neighborhood deteriorated.
At one point, the South Uptown had a corner store on like every other block, and they always booming because you know they had the blue and white that was down Murder Street. They had the little cheap candy. You go there for like if you just down to a quarter, you can go get the little Laffy Taffy.
You can't get anything for a quarter now though.
Yeah, it's over with. And then you know they had service. It used to be called the Pink Store. You go there for they honey buns stayed 25 cents. Like everybody else was going up to 35 to 50 cents, but the zebra cakes was still 25. And but now that it's burned down. Blue and white, it's not even there. Ragusa had a store, and Johnny Liquor Store was open. But like you say, everybody, the business is gone.
Yeah, and now you know, and that's what you know was important for us. You know, with you know Legacy on 14th Street, being part of the Electric Depot development, where we're part of the development team. Buying Hotel Lincoln and converting it to, you know, commercial on the bottom and apartments. We have some land and some other stuff, commercial stuff we're gonna do, along with the residential stuff we're doing in South Baton Rouge. But all of that is part of like building this ecosystem where, you know, you have businesses within the community, you have, you know, places people can have jobs where they can walk to. And I mean, you know, you look at what they're doing on Government Street with the road diet and what they're doing on East Boulevard, you know, with the bike lanes and stuff like that. So for us, it was just important to understand what was happening. And I mean, and like, it's excited to see this happening now, but I mean, we started buying property in South Baton Rouge 7-8 years ago, you know, because we saw the potential, and it's been a waiting game. I bought my office building, Legacy on 14th Street. I bought that building in 2016, 2017, you know, and held on to it, you know, cut the grass for, you know, 3-4 years before we developed it. But I understood what the potential was with that neighborhood, just based on like its location, proximity to downtown, proximity to LSU, on the main, you know, main thoroughfare with Government Street. So understanding that helped me understand that, hey, this is a good neighborhood to invest in, you know, for a long-term investment.
Right. And being from Houston and being from Third Ward, Texas, I saw it. I've watched this happen. And so when Anthony, you know, kind of explained what all he was doing, I was like, oh my God, I would love to, you know, be a part of it in any way I can. And, you know, with that, you know, being, you know, one of my best friends and his, you know, fiance, one of my best friends as well, it was like, hey, how cool would it be to be down here and working with my best friends and, you know, doing what I love as well.
It don't even feel like work.
And helping them, and helping them grow exactly what I watched happen and kind of control it. Because in Third Ward, you know, I have a few of my friends, you know, whose grandparents, you know, moved from Louisiana into that neighborhood. Parents grew up in that neighborhood. We then grew up in that neighborhood. And now they have these, you know, neighbors that don't look like us. But we pride ourselves on being, you know, a strong Black community. And it's like, you know, to be able to be a part of something that's growing in another city that I love just as much. I was here from the age of 17 and 25 years old, you know.
Right.
I grew up here a lot, you know, in a lot of ways. So to be able to come back and, you know, be a part of and to witness the growth of this and of, you know, South Baton Rouge and even, you know, a lot of things that Tevin is doing in North Baton Rouge, to be able to be part of that, I was very excited, you know, because I can kind of control, you know, keeping us coming in as opposed to, you know, everybody
and just
else.
to have a hand in
Exactly.
it as well.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's another thing, important thing to point out. You, especially in the Black community, you know, you really use out these stigmas. You know, you can't work together, you can't invest together. You know, and like, you know, and I think me and Ashley are a testament that friends can, you know. And I don't, you know, ever look at it like, especially with my internal team, that people work for me. You know, I look at it more like, I look at I walk in my purpose of being able to bring certain resources into this community and empower the people around me. And I want the people around me to grow and develop their own thing, because I know what my thing is, you know what I mean? I want to be a real estate developer. You know, there's a certain couple things I want to do, and then I want to be able to go pick my kids up at 3 o'clock. You know, that's what I want my life to be. I don't need to be uber rich, but you know, I think, you know, going back to, you know, friends, you know, working together and partnering together is possible. And I'm not gonna say it's easy. I'm an asshole. I mean, me and Ashley have our different spots and different things that
You witnessed.
you know, and so, you know, and I mean, I even work with my parents. My parents, you know, are part of my construction team, and you know, but it's also about me figuring out, hey, you know, what works, what doesn't work. You know, how to deal with, you know, having my mom work for me and stuff like that. How to deal with, you know, having a friend work for me. But it's, you know, one of those things when you are intentional, and you understand that there's going to be ups and downs and things that happen. And the other part of it is like, every business deal doesn't work out, but understand it's business. Be able to separate the business and the personal, and like move on from things. And you know, but I think that's important, because I think there's a huge stigma. We're talking about the Black community of, hey, you can't work together with friends and family and stuff. Like, no, it's like, it's about having real operating agreements, you know, real, you know, business agreements, real discussions and transparency, you know, and then understanding that, hey, sometimes we're going to go through, you know, shit. And, you know, it's about just being, say, you know, like being willing to figure it out or say, hey, this is not working anymore. Hey, I'm going to move on, you move on. Hey, there ain't no beef. Like, this just is what works for me. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that it's important, especially for our community, especially in Baton Rouge, for what we need to do as a Black community.
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't like moving on. They'll rather stay on it just to get the free bag.
Right.
Exactly, just to ride someone's
that's
coattails.
I think
if you
that
still gonna fuck with it, I'm gonna fuck with it.
right. And piggybacking off of what Anthony said, one thing about the I guess work community that we formed is, like Anthony said, he doesn't believe anybody working for him but with him. So I started off with the property management company. He asked me to put together a company retreat. So from there I developed a whole a corporate team building retreat that I've now shopped out to other people. I do whiteboard sessions with people, helping them, which is where Connecting the Dots started. I always help people with figuring out how to take what they're trying to do to the next level, and it's being in a workspace where you're working on one thing but you're also encouraged and helped in a sense to do other things. Right. And that's something that a lot of people don't do, and I think that's a great thing about honestly working with a friend, that you have that business relationship with, that you do respect, on a business side. You're also able to grow, and because each other, hey, you would also probably be good doing this, you should try this, you should try that. There are a lot of things that people come to me and talk to me about. I'm like, hey Anthony, you think you want to do this? Like, let's try you doing this, blah blah blah. And it works. And so that's a positive thing, about working with a friend that you wouldn't get normally just working with a corporation, where they just want you to do exactly, you do this is what you're supposed to do. Don't do anything else outside of it because we got other people to do that,
Right. And I think it's also pretty cool that, a friend can propel you,
right.
like you're saying, what I'm saying? A friend can recognize potential and be like, look, from a child, I knew you had this potential. Right. If you feel like you can go do this, I know you. Right. Go do it.
And your friend can also say, hey, you could be doing all this and you're not doing nothing. Like, get your shit together. Excuse my language. Like, which we have those talks. And I mean, that's a good thing about our friendship. We actually had one of those talks yesterday, like where it's like, hey, like, you my dog, like I love you, but like you're thinking about this way, you really need to be thinking about it this way. And this is why I think you should think about it this way. And I am over analytical to the point where I can say, you know what, I know I'm seeing it this way, but I understand how this could be this way, and I'm able to adjust. I might cry about it in the car for a minute. I'm gonna get over it though, and I'm gonna adjust. So it's a good thing.
And so Anthony, how is it like teaming up while working with a female? Like, so me and Ash, we get along like real dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like how she brought up on one episode, like you the only like female host, co-host in the South. Yeah. And like, how is it like, because coming up it wasn't like, it was like, what, you working with a female? But our generation, I see it a lot.
Well, he's surrounded with working with females.
I work with most, especially in our internal office. It's different internal office to being in the field, which I'm not in the field as much anymore, the construction team. So, which is male dominated, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it's one of those things that definitely, especially for me, it's not only females. It's like it's close personal relationships. It's like my mom's in my staff meeting and stuff like that. So for me, even Ashley is just, and I think male or female, it's just understanding people's personality and just what works for them. And as a leader, being able to like adjust. And I think one thing that's helped me a ton is I've had an AAU program for the last 7-8 years, Louisiana Elite. And for the first 4 or 5 years I coached. And I look at, especially a lot of like what I have to do right now in my company is coaching in a sense, because I'm trying to like do something that most people that's working for me that hadn't really experienced, what I mean, in the sense of like, we're developing residential multifamily, we're developing commercial, we're dealing with permit issues, we're dealing with kind of neighborhood issues, and so we have a lot of different things that hits us from the day to day. So with that being said, a lot of what I feel like I'm doing is coaching in the sense of like how you interact with your different teammates and stuff. Everything like is different. Like you coach different players different. You know what I mean?
You find their strengths.
Yeah, and you find and you figure out like what works for people and what gets people to go. And you figure out what some people need to be yelled at sometime in a sense of just like, hey, some people are really self-motivated.
That's why you drinking today?
I don't know. I saw Ashley. She giggled over there. She's like,
been there. And I think it's also understanding like people's background and like.
And also not taking it personal.
Yeah, and also it's about like if you're going to be a leader, you need to, and if you're going to be intentional about leadership, is like being able to see things for people before they see it. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Even like Ashley came out of, you know, some things I'm able to see about as outside looking in about even her. Like, hey, you know, she's in entrepreneurship. She's just starting this. She worked in the carpet world 15 years. So some of the things that, you know, she expects in entrepreneurship, I'm able to say, hey, no, it's not like that. You know, because I've been doing this since 24.
Right.
Like, and I literally been trying to like where I've had a client since I was 24 years old that's literally in, whether it's sports management, business consult, that pays me every month. That's how I pay my living. And literally, you know, I've lost clients and stuff where like, and I've dealt with that now. I'm 11 years in where like, I just have to figure it out. And not only do I have to figure it out for me, I have to figure it out for the people that are part of my team now that expect me to pay them to take care of their families. So with that being said, I think it's just, as a leader, just being intentional, but going back to I don't even think it's a women thing. I think it's just a personality thing and understanding that, hey, we are a startup.
Yeah.
And like, it's what, you know, every day is going to be different.
Yep.
And I think the biggest thing for me now is like just continuing to grow that team and like, but also saying like who to empower and who to like, you know, like for Ashley, like, hey, like I told her, like, hey, I don't want you, like, you need to have your own thing, like, you know, your own property manager, your own company, because you're capable of that. You know what I mean? So these are the things you need to do, because property management is also not what I want to do. I want to be a developer. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like you want to promote, you want to do different things in entertainment. Like, okay, how can I empower someone like you to do that if it's mutual beneficial to us? But like, that's not what I want to do. You know what I mean? So I think it's figuring out
the pieces.
Yeah, the pieces and how those work together.
Yeah, if you can shoot threes, go stay in the corner. I'm gonna drive in. I'm gonna kick it to you.
Right, exactly.
But don't you try to drive in there.
Don't you-
Come on now, chill.
Come on now.
Right.
But
You
that's
might
what
be
it's
good at
gonna-
layups, but not all that
Yeah.
other stuff.
But
Right.
that intentionality is
Right.
what it's going to take to like for the black community to
Yep.
develop on the business side in Baton Rouge. And so, like I
Absolutely.
said, going back to your original question, I think it's figuring out with all of us, like how do we work together? How do we be beneficial to each other? And understanding like, hey, shit, for 1, 2, or 3, you know, the first, second, and third time might not work out. But like, hey, you know, it might be that fourth time, and understand like that's how business works. You know what I mean? Or like, hey, it didn't work out now, but hey, maybe 4 or 5 years from now, like there's some synergy between like what we're doing that makes it make sense.
Absolutely. And I think every connection is a good connection. So even something that doesn't work out initially could potentially lead to a connection. At least that connection is established for later on, like you said. You can still revisit if you need to reconnect and try to do something else. But I think something cool on that topic about having women at the forefront, the whole concept was foreign to me coming up. And I hate to say that, but it was. You know, I didn't see many women at the forefront of stuff. I knew like women like my mother, for instance. I reference her almost every time I talk because she is the one who has instilled most of what I understand about corporate America into me. You know, my mom was a manager since as long as I can remember.
Right.
She's climbed to the top of huge companies, but you never know because of how the market has been male dominated for a very long time. So there were lots of things that I wanted to be a part of, but I'm just like, you know, as a young lady, as a young black lady, a young black child coming up, I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't see many women do that. So I guess maybe I can't do that, you know, and I love the fact that nowadays you see that changing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure whether that's me maturing, coming into, you know, almost like coming into a different group of people essentially where you see more visibility of that, or whether or not it just truly is the changing of the times.
Right.
Either way it goes, I'm pleased to see it. And you know, I think that us doing stuff like this, us bringing exposure to people who are putting women in the forefront, and that's not to say that, you know, if a man's running anything it's terrible. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But what I feel like I gotta put that disclaimer out there. People take it personally, but I'm just saying equally it's just nice, especially because like for instance this podcast, Seven, like we mentioned before, Seven has the first female, maybe the first female co-host in the South. I've never seen it before. You know, I love to see people working together and not looking at gender, not looking at exactly like he said, looking at personality, looking at how can your mind and my mind collaborate for the greater good.
Right. I think that women are getting a lot more respect now in the business world than they were before. I think that, I mean, how do I say this without sounding bad? I don't think that it's a woman is better or a man is better. I think that individuals are better in different positions. If you have an office full of males, hey, they might be the best for the job.
Right.
A woman might not work well in that environment. It just might not be the best. There are some environments where it should be all women. Men just don't work well in those environments.
Right.
And I think it's about like Anthony said, it's not
Putting the
about
pieces
necessarily a
together.
male or a female. It's about who's best fit for the job.
Exactly.
And I think that's what we should focus on.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit more than just,
Gender, like
I am male or woman, hear me roar.
exactly.
That's how I feel. So
I mean, it's a little different for me. My mom was always a go-getter. You know, and she didn't have a huge corporate job, but, she had her job and she always had her, I mean, she worked in the corporate world, but she always had her things, she did. And my parents were, my parents are 15 and 17 years older than me. So I saw my parents grow up and they were willing to try different things growing up, whether it's, we had a record store, they started buying real estate and stuff like that. So, but my mom was always probably the one really leading that charge. So, and I think that really rubbed off, a lot on me to see like my mom, my mom had me at 17 junior in high school and she figured it out, didn't finish college or anything. And I tell my mom it's funny now because it's interesting to see her path. Before she had a car wreck a couple years, but my mom played tennis and stuff and was working with the Baton Rouge tennis coach. But it was good to see her path of where she came from to where she is in that life right now, and that's a testimony to hard work and figuring it out. You know what I mean? And I applaud both my parents for that they figured it out. But like I said, I've always seen, my mom was a strong individual as a woman. She's the oldest kid in her family and stuff like that. And with that being said, a lot of that, I'm an only child, a lot of that rubbed off on me. And so seeing what women are capable of doesn't surprise me. I think, just with social media and stuff like that, we're able to, we see a lot more of those things broadcast and women realize what the opportunities are. But it wasn't that, I don't think from a position of ever not being capable, because even the women that were at home, what women have been able to do in our household, especially for when the black family was a lot more connected. I mean, that was a job within itself. So and I think all that hard work and that goes into whether it's raising kids or developing a career are the ones that are actually doing both. I think it's, I'm glad that's, finally being recognized and applauded.
So you feel like when you was coaching kids, is like, because you don't have kids.
No.
So coaching kids is almost like, you look at them like your kids and kind of teaching them whatever you learned. And
well, I'm a big person on cycles and, developing cycles within our community. And I'm a person that, I'm from Morganza. I was born, I lived with my grandma. We lived in a trailer. My mom figured it out. She met a man who then adopted me, who, like my parents are testimony to hard work and figuring it out. And they, only child, they always, my parents always, I felt like, worked their ass off to put me in the best, positions to be able to, be who I am today. So with coaching kids, it goes back to, actually a sports academy, place that's, in South Baton Rouge downtown area. And a guy I look at to as a mentor now, College Temple, who, he, I played on his AAU team. He got me into high school, University High. I graduated with his son, Garrett Temple, who was one of my biggest, investors and also one of my closest friends to this day. When I met that dude, I was going to Struma, at the time, which at the time was, a school and, in the hood, we had a pretty decent basketball program, not a great academic situation, but my dad friend and Carlos Sample was the coach there at the time. So that's where I went to school. But me going to a place like University High allowed me probably to go to a place like Stanford. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I look at what College Temple and Sports Academy and that institution was able to do for me.
Right.
So when I came back home, I felt it was important for me
Create the same
to
situation.
do that, to give back, to figure out and
Absolutely.
use sports. I saw how he used sports as a carrot to bring kids in, and
As a way
then
to connect.
be and connect to those kids. But also how he was able to help us and mentor us through this. So that was why it was important for me to be a part of a program. And like Louisiana, lead and coach and mentor kids.
Love that.
And we also we're gonna be teaming up on doing other events in the future. We can't really talk about it too much, but
Yep. Got a lot coming up.
yeah.
That's a really big thing with Legacy, is making sure that we're not only, hosting events, but if anybody wants to book a birthday party, anniversary, anything like that, call us. But along with that, we also do want to do things for the community. We want to bring out, we're planning a couple of different like real estate and financial literacy events as well before the end of the year. So, and not only for our community in South Baton Rouge, but the Black community as a whole in Baton Rouge, and kind of creating and building that that arts, the culture, and kind of bringing that culture that you were talking about earlier into Baton Rouge, and showing people that you can do different things and you can have different, like we were hosting paint and sip events, things like that, to bring people over, yoga fests, different like workout events to bring people that wouldn't normally come into that area for these types of events that they enjoy. So that's really what we try to do a lot with Legacy on 14.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
So for the people out there, we talking about working hard and all that. So do y'all have time to turn up? I mean, I know, but let people know you can.
Is it possible to
Wait,
follow
say what
your
you were gonna
dreams?
say about Legacy first, and then answer that question.
I mean, I enjoy life. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that I feel like it's about having balance in life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And definitely. And there are seasons. Some of those seasons, it's for grinding. Some of those seasons, it's you might you might have a little more balance and stuff. But it's also understanding where you are in life and what you what you need. And I mean, going back to legacy, all I was saying is was gonna say is the big piece of legacy is building that connectivity. So that's why it's important for us to work with people like Seven, who's from the community, to build relationships in that community, because I think that's the biggest thing. We opened Legacy on 14th Street November 1st last year. So even within that community, people are still getting more familiar with what we are. It's not a museum, it's not something that LSU built over there that these Black people just happen to walk out during the day.
It's us.
It's Black-owned businesses, with office space in there, multiple businesses operating out those offices, event space that's, in a closed-in event space downstairs and a rooftop event space where people are able to host events. But building that brand awareness, but also building that connectivity within that community is important as we look to do more things within that community and develop other businesses. That's going to be super important.
Right. And going back to your question, do we party and have fun? Anthony touched on this earlier. In our 20s, we partied
20s of the
hard.
20s.
Our 20s, we partied hard. We did a lot of traveling, a lot of that in our 20s. And I think in our 30s, I think Anthony more so than myself is more intentional with his partying and the types of things that we do. I just love a good time, so I do. People always, tell me, I'm grinding. I wish I could, travel like you do, party like you do, but I'm grinding. And I'm like, hey, I'm grinding as well, hard. However, I can't grind unless I have balance. I need, and maybe my 20s taught me that, because in my 20s I did do a lot of traveling, where a lot of people don't start traveling and going different places until they hit their 30s. I did that in my 20s, and I understand the importance of having that balance. And I worked my tail off for 15 years in property management. I did student housing, so I was with college kids 24/7, all day, every day for 15 years. Wow. But so I needed to, with with that, I had to be able to also enjoy myself. And I've learned in my 30s how to balance and do both a lot better.
Absolutely. I think it's super important, no matter what your
Kinda.
passion is, no matter no matter what your passion is, no matter what the end goal is,
Right.
you have to learn to have that balance.
Absolutely.
So many people say, you know, if I just work hard for these 5 years straight, at the end I'll be successful and happy. No, you
What
need
happens
to,
if you die in those 5 years?
you know, you need
Yeah.
you need to learn to balance out, because you want to
'Cause it happens.
it does, especially nowadays. Anything can happen, but you definitely want to learn that balance so that you can sustain yourself
Exactly.
throughout your success. You can continually grow and enjoy the life that you were living
Absolutely.
at the same time.
I think a big part of that, I mean, I know, Seven, you're real into fitness and stuff like that, but I mean, it's like also like understanding the importance of like, hey, working hard to like earn a living. And, you know, I always tell people I work my ass off like for the freedom that I want to be able to like get
Yes.
up and like
Yes.
live the life I want to live every day. But also it's like, hey, just like for me, being rich and wealthy in life is just about not about having a lot of money. It's about having good health. So,
Right.
you know, like talking about working out, vitamins, water, those
Yeah.
type of things,
Keeping up with your
rest,
body.
you know, the importance of meditation
Right.
and stuff like that. So the importance of, you know, therapy, you know, like mental, you know, illness is a real thing.
Yes.
So, you know, I think another part of it is like, what does healthy, happy, and like peace look like? And I
Yeah.
think, you know, sometimes it's just like, just being like, I need to be uber successful in terms of like making money doing something, but like healthy body, you know, clear mind, you know, peace, you know, all of those things are just as important. I think, especially as a Black community, whether it's meditating, working out, therapy and stuff, like just as much as we put importance into making money, we need to
Yeah.
put importance into, you know, those things also.
Yeah, and I want to bring some light to what you said. I want to emphasize something you said. I think it's so important that you said, you know, what does it look like? You know what I'm saying? And one of those, just to add on, what does it look like to you? Because what looks like health, you know, balance to someone else, his health and balance isn't mine. As many times as he feels comfortable, you know, working hours, working out, whatever his balance is not my balance.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, just to piggyback off of what you said, I definitely think it's important for you to figure out exactly what that means to you.
Yeah.
And, you know, find a way to incorporate that into your everyday life. You know, don't look towards other people's, whatever their regimen
Yeah.
is, to become your own. Get in tune with yourself.
With your own.
And through that, you know, once you incorporate that, you can open up paths and other avenues to the type of happiness, what that is to you, to be available to you. And with that being said, I want to thank you guys for being guests on our show today. So once
Yeah.
again, we have Anthony and we have Ashley.
Yeah, this was big. Appreciate it.
Trey's gonna put their information up. We're gonna have their socials down below. Seven, you want to take us out of here?
All right, y'all tune in to Boss Talk Radio with the gang. And so,
Appreciate y'all, man.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having us.
Thanks, y'all.
y'all stay tuned
Absolutely.
in for the Flash events, Flash developments.
Everything coming up. So you got your host Seven, his co-host Ash. We'll see you next week on Boss Talk Radio.